Morning, everyone.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Richard. Morning, Kerry. Good morning. And for the audience who are all barreling through the virtual front door, good morning and welcome to our October 2023 ecologiQ Innovation Showcase. So I'll give it a couple of minutes for people to jump on. In the meantime, I'll play a quick video because I think our media team can do a better job of sort of explaining what we do here at ecologiQ better than I could. So enjoy and we'll get started in about 60 seconds.
The future of Victorian infrastructure is green. Recycling Victoria has laid out a 10-year roadmap to a circular economy, a future where our state's public and private sectors will unite to prioritise sustainability. At the core of this are our public assets, the roads and railroads that connect us and ignite possibilities. But where does the change to green thinking begin? The Recycled First policy. Recycled First will require transport infrastructure projects to optimise the use of Victorian recycled and reused materials. This will see the use of recycled aggregates, glass, plastic, timber, steel, ballast, crushed brick, crumb rubber and reclaimed asphalt pavement take precedence over virgin materials. For information, technical advice and support on bringing your sustainable project innovations to life, drop ecologiQ a line. Recycled First, supporting purposely greener infrastructure.
Good morning, everyone, and again, welcome to our October 2023 ecologiQ Innovation Showcase. My name's Doyle. I'm the Industry Manager with ecologiQ, and I'll be your host for today. If anything happens to my presentation, my co-pilot here, Lauren Rowan, our Industry Support Officer, will be able to take over. So before I get started, I do acknowledge, although we're dialing in virtually, that we still dial in from traditional lands. So for me, I'm dialing in from the lands of the Boon Wurrung and Woi Wurrung people of the Eastern Kulin Nations. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people we might have with us on the call today, and also acknowledge the elders of the lands upon which you might be dialing in from also. So welcome to everyone to our event. So after this showcase and the presentation slides, all the information will be available both on our ecologiQ Knowledge Hub and on YouTube. So ecologiQ is now on the social media front. So you can, if you missed out on this, you can still watch the recordings and capture all the information there. So just a little bit about ecologiQ. If this is the first time you've found your way to us, ecologiQ is a Victorian government program to roll out the Recycled First policy, and how we've been going about doing that is to look at to leverage the big build. So those 6 key flagship projects that you see down there in Victoria, they represent a really significant demand for material, but also a great opportunity to really reform and update and really evolve the industry in terms of moving towards that circular economy. So we have a technical team that works with asset owners, and we'll work with Department of Transport, Metro Trains and V-Line to undertake type approvals and change standards and specifications. Myself and Lauren are obviously working in the market development area. And so events like this are part of some of our initiatives that help give the industry opportunity to really showcase their very latest innovations, but also provide tools and resources to ensure that when we talk about a circular economy, that Victoria has a thriving, healthy, profitable circular economy that is delivering all the sustainability impacts whilst having that diversion from waste. So Recycle First, it's been around since March 2020. The Department of Transport now will have Recycle First requirements in their contracts, and you can expect with future projects coming out of the State Victorian Office and even local government that Recycle First will be popping up as part of that broader step change towards a circular economy and a low carbon sustainable future. So a little bit to date, and that means our projects across those 6 projects, we've delivered over 2.5 million tonnes of recycled materials. I can't remember how many MCGs that's worth or how many Darling Harbours, but it's quite a significant amount. And being that it's a contractual requirement, with projects yet to go, we've actually got almost 3.5 million tonnes of recycled materials committed to be delivered in the projects that have the Recycle First requirements to date. So Our showcase event, for those who haven't seen one of these before, it's very much an opportunity for business to really pitch their ideas and solutions, launch their products, and get some advice and feedback from industry leaders in the space. So we have a revolving list of panelists that join us and experts to give us that advice. Typically, we'll try and find someone from Department of Transport to provide that insight from an asset owner's perspective on standards and specifications. We'll look for senior leaders from major road and rail projects who can give advice around what actually happens in procurement, design, or delivery to try and bring these materials to life. And then we'll also have a technical expert, and sometimes that's our own technical manager to provide that that pathway for adoption and how these materials can find their way into standards and specs. And again, if you're interested, you can actually hop on YouTube and watch some of the previous innovation showcases also. And importantly, it is a call out to the audience out there. A lot of these innovations are only adopted by people who saw them here today and were inspired and picked up the phone and reached out and contacted these businesses. So now for our panel for this round, I would now ask our panelists to turn their cameras on because I'd like to introduce you first to Kerry Gagousas, Manager Innovation Continuous Improvement Rail Projects Victoria, our rail expert for this event. Kerry, do you want to say hello?
Thanks, Dewey, and happy Friday, everyone. I'm excited to be here and see what's new on the market and how we can optimize the use of recycled materials on our rail projects. So thanks for the warm welcome, Dewey.
Well, thank you, Kerry. Next, Yu Chin Kwa, Structural Engineering Advisor at Major Road Projects Victoria. Yu Chin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eugene Gui, Structural Engineering Advisor, and good to be here and good to listen from the industry, what they are doing for the recycled material.
Fantastic. Thanks, Yu Chin. And Irina.
Hi, everyone. I'm also welcoming any new innovations and products, and look forward hearing, I guess, today as well from the panelists. Our role and engineering team, I guess, at MRPV is really supporting and providing that technical support to ecologiQ and the MRPV program in implementing this recycled first policy. So we definitely are interested in removing any barriers such as standards and specifications that are currently maybe preventing either recycled products or new products to be used. And we very actively work on creating, I guess, new specifications and I guess preparing kind of the changes, I guess, that are necessary to be done.
Wonderful. Thank you, Irina. And as you can see, our panelists will be fielding 4 presentations today from our industry partners. And really, and what the driver behind all this is ecologiQ very much has a collaboration approach when it comes to implementing the policy. The policy is just an instrument to achieve the outcomes that we want to see. So when we say we want to collaborate, it means that we do want to work with our design partners, our industry and suppliers like those that we have here today who are manufacturing these products. It means that we're working with engineers and construction projects, and we'll work with the asset owners, because only through that sort of collaborative approach will we see either new innovations being adopted or turning things that can be done into business as usual and pushing things beyond that compliance. So and I'm happy to report that in the few years that we've been running, that these are some of our wins to date, and a lot of these have come through and had their first start from an innovation showcase event. So we've trialed or demonstrated new products on the big build. We've actually updated for technical standards to bring about new other products onto the market. And Irina, Yu Chin, and the team here working with ecologiQ and other partners have actually written 3 brand new technical standards from scratch as well. So and that's a photo of me and our technical manager Shalini out on a project. One of the few times I actually got to get my safety boots dirty and see recovered carbon black from end-of-life tires go into a Victorian road for the first time. So we'll be monitoring the outcome of that trial over the next few years, and hopefully one day we can see more tires go into our roads. So one last thing I wanted to plug before we go is Post. This is a new tool that will be available on our ecologiQ Knowledge Hub. We've developed an innovation database, which is very much a catalog of all the products that have been pitched through the showcase event. So we've been running the showcase series for about 2 years now, And I think today we've got 54 products. So they're in various stages of adoption. Some of them are brand new and we're exploring them. And others have been secured full approval. There have been standards and specifications that have been updated that permit for their use. So you can have a quick look here. This will capture some technical information, the contact details, and I encourage people here in the audience after this to request access to our Knowledge Hub. And you can hop onto our database, and in complement to some of the other tools like our supplier map and our case studies, you can actually have a FOSIC and look up the list of all the new products that have come through the showcase series and see what stages they're up to in their development and commercialization. So, event housekeeping. Today is about giving our 4 industry partners a go at presenting their new products. So, for the audience, you'll notice that you don't have video functionality, but if you did have any questions, please put it in the chat or Q&A function in Zoom, and our presenters will endeavour to hop in and answer your questions. Just make sure you direct your question to the presenter. So, if you've got a question, for example, for Cameron here from Aspire, pop in there and let us know that it's for Cameron. So we'll kick off in a minute's time with Cameron from Aspire, and over the next course of the hour and a half, we'll should hear from our 4 presenters. So without further delay, Cameron, over to you.
Thank you, Dewey, and thanks ecologiQ for putting the event on. And yeah, and all to the panelists. So yeah, really appreciate your efforts and making the time. Yeah, do you want to go to the next slide? Yeah, so for those who don't know, Aspire is a circular economy resource exchange platform. So we originated from CSIRO and Data 61. And what we do is we allow businesses any size from multinationals down to 2 or 3 persons to exchange waste as a resource or a surplus material as a resource and either save a lot of money on their procurement or they can buy or sell it on the platform. What we do is we create internal and external market or circular marketplaces. So we rehome and repurpose resources within an organisation as well as with the greater market. And we also support organisations on their transition circular. One thing that's very unique about Aspire is we're ISO verified to be reporting on carbon emission avoidance. So if you think about it, I'll give you a prime example. If you transact or trade 1 tonne of tyres on the platform, 1 tonne of tyres is 3.2 tonnes of carbon, to be accurate. So basically, if you transact that on the platform, we can actually create impact certificates that are ISO verified on your carbon emissions avoidance. So that's very unique. As everyone's sort of pushing towards these decarbonisation targets, Aspire is aligned with that. I don't know if anyone's been aware of what's going on the federal level regarding the track and traceability framework, but basically we've been working with them on how we can implement Aspire to be that sort of position for them by creating resource passports. We've got geolocation track and tracing in the platform and also algorithm matching all these resource streams. Yeah, so basically we work with any organisations that have a resource that they're looking to procure or looking to get rid of. But basically, we've got a national database and marketplace where you can list these resources. We meet science-based targets, and the whole idea about Aspire is building circular economy networks and sustainable supply chains. I'll give you an example of this. We had a big project that came to us recently. And what we did is the whole sort of how Aspire works is we're a subscription-based service. So we're not necessarily deemed a contractor or something like that. We're a service, a sustainability and software service that helps you with these accesses. And I'll just give an example as for a price for how to use Aspire is basically it's probably about 0.5% of what you would normally pay to get rid of an item to use Aspire. So that's just a little bit of a rule of thumb that we use. Yeah, so basically what I want to do is just go through a couple of case studies. So here we've got an organisation here. This is just a pulse report for Q4 last year. So basically the organisation's got almost just over 1,300 employees. They've got about 360 in their value supply chain now, and we connect the businesses. They're 24 months into their journey. Another 2 months to go, another two years to go. But basically, within 3 months, we saved them almost $370,000 on procurement savings and not having to send the items to landfill or pay for disposal. They repurposed it within their value chain and their network. And one of the big benefits of that is obviously decarbonisation target. It's over 380 tonnes of carbon emissions saved. So this is just one organisation for 3 months. So they clearly made their money back there in just 1 month for their 12-month subscription. Next one. Yeah, so basically this is just a bit an overview of the open marketplace. So basically at the top there, we've got high demand resources, and being a circular economy marketplace and all those people that are familiar with the circular economy, it's about procurement as well as listing items and trying to get them flowing through and circulating around. So basically we've got them at the top, and their businesses or organisations that are actually looking for resources. So they're interested in bringing it into their supply chain. And down the bottom are just resources that people want to list or get rid of. Yeah, and basically the algorithm inside, it's not passive, right? So it actually alerts these businesses that there's an opportunity there for them to look at. Yeah, so basically, this is just a quick overview. We'll share these slides later. I'll ask Julie to do this, please. But basically, what we've got here is just some high-level customizable reporting that we have. So here, what we do is within your network, as we went back and just spoke about recently, they've got about 450 businesses in their value chain or in their network. And basically here, what this does is it identifies the market opportunity. I was actually speaking to Infrastructure Australia yesterday about sort of this and some of the reporting we do, and they were quite interested because they've got a lot of data and they've got a lot of information. They know where the opportunities, but they've got no real way to create a market around the supply and demand, where we're going to be hopefully working with them to do that. And down the bottom, you can see there that we try to balance out or identify where the gaps in the markets are. So when you might have hundreds of tons of X product with no demand, so there's no demand on it. So what we try to do is help balance that supply demand aspect of the market out. Yeah, so one of the elements that we do at Aspire is we've got an auditing system. So a part of your ecosystem, you can go in and identify and have a look and see what the businesses are doing. Again, it's very unique. And what this does, it really helps organisations with their actual environmental policies and goals for projects. And what we want to do is be able to help these businesses with their sourcing, their sustainable sourcing, also listing information on the platform, so we can actually measure the impact that you're actually creating over the life of a project or over the life of a stage of a project. This is just another case study I thought I'd bring in. So basically, what we did is we went through this organisation. They uploaded or went through and used the platform to measure certain aspects of their business. And what we did over, I think it was a 3-month period, it was measured over 40,000 tonnes of carbon emissions avoided, over 200,000 tonnes of resources destined for landfill, but they managed to measure and repurpose through the platform. And for all those down there, it's over 680,000 trees equivalent of carbon reduction in the environment. So, there's nothing to sneeze at. We're actually quite proud of this. But also too, this isn't just not one. We've got several organisations that do these type of numbers through the platform and really see the opportunity. One of we sort of touched on this earlier about the embodied carbon savings through the platform. Everything's ISO verified, but also too, for those on the call, we're actually a part of Infrastructure Sustainability Council, and we're also a part of the iSupply registration. So, and we've actually got, I think it's 8 credits that you can apply to some of your projects if you use Aspire, and some of them are just for trialing it or using it or trying to measure the impact of your carbon emission savings, as well as ROI and cost saving measures through using the platform. So, it's almost like a no-brainer if you've got an infrastructure project going, because we can assist on that journey and with that iSupply rating. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. There are my numbers there and my email. So if you've got any questions, please reach out. But yeah, I know Julie's going to share this later. So thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. And it's great to have a presentation for looking at the reuse and providing a platform for that, as well as carbon accounting, which, as we all know, I think all of us have got a role to play in that journey towards net zero. So now open it to our panelists for any questions for Cameron. Do I have any takers? Perhaps Eugene, you turn your camera on first.
Thanks, Nuri. Thanks, Cameron, for your presentation. I learned a lot, and good to hear that your company have done so many ecosystem and carbon deduction work behind the scene. That's fantastic. Just wonder, for your using your software like ecosystem, how do you charge your end user, or how they need to subscribe, or they need to pay the money? How the thing work?
Yeah, good question. So we're a subscription-based service. So depending on the size of your business and how big your network is, you pay an annual subscription. So what we do is we try to work with a head contractor or someone like that. Like that example that I sort of showed earlier, we've got an organisation in Queensland that subscribe, and basically they bring or send a invite to all their value chain, supply chain within their region to use the platform, so they can actually measure and alert the businesses that there's actually a product that they can take. So, but also to any business can join. So we have organisations join. I think we have about 4 or 5 overnight. They've got under 10 staff, so they can join and you jump into the network and play and have a look at what they need and procure items and list items and so forth. So stuff like that. So end of the day, we're majority subscription. We also too have a support element. So some businesses need assistance with their transition circular. So what we do is we offer that service. There is a payment gateway on the platform. We're partnered with Stripe regarding that. They're our merchant, and there is some slight commissions on that, but the majority of that, or I think 90% of it's covering the Stripe fee. So we don't make much out of that. It's all about how we can sort of help these businesses or create the trust between the buyer and seller through the platform.
Very good. The other thing we'd like to understand is, like, once you subscribe your software or get the information, how do you verify that costs are, or refine the thing that is correct or that is accurate?
Yeah, so the listing the item or the value of it is up to the person who's actually listing it. Okay, so if I own the asset and I want to get rid of it, like I've got like an example, we had I think it was about 20,000 tons of asphalt that was exchanged not long ago, saving the customer, the person listing it, 75,000, right? So so basically sometimes they know what it's going to cost to dispose of. They might have already got a quote. So sometimes I'll put that down as the value that they would save of what the value of the item is. But also too, it's a typical market dynamics. So if you've got a value, you've got an item that's low value and you've got a high cost on it, it won't move. Like a prime example, we do about 200-300 pallets a day. That's quite a high volume product. And you know, they're normally $1 or $2 a pop, like a pallet at some of them, right? Or $5. And we had someone who had $22 per pallet and no one bought them, right? And they stood there for a while and he's a little bit frustrated. And I said, well, you got to have a look at the price of them. They're quite low and your price is quite high. So you just got to sometimes educate them or suggest them on the market dynamics and how markets work.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, Eugene. Irina.
Thanks, Cameron. Look, it's a great platform. It's like a Facebook marketplace, but for recycled products, isn't it? So it's great to have that tool. My question is around how you update your database, and you've mentioned that your kind of members update their kind of supply chain, whatever organizations. Is that how it works, or and how do you ensure that if someone is not a member, but there's like a supply chain that no one even knew that this platform existed, that you actually get that data on your platform?
Yeah, so a couple of questions there. We're almost like an eBay on steroids. That's the way I call it. And we're purely B2B, so we don't have no 16-year-old. Someone can be bidding on your goods and let you down or ghost you like normally happens on marketplace. We're B2B. We do. You need an ABN to play, so that's elements around that. Back to your other question. So so basically it's network balance, right? So people upload the resources and we can identify. We've got teams that'll have a look at a resource that if it's within like if you want it up there for 2 or 3 weeks and it's about a week to go and no one's bidded on it, we can sort of do a bit of active viewing on that and have a look and see how it goes. And basically back to the carbon emissions avoidance. So what we do is we partner with a third party So they've got a database with hundreds of thousands of metrics or values around all different things regarding concrete, steel, bitumen, you name it, organics. And basically they update theirs constantly. So basically what we do is when someone lists an item, we pull an API from their database. It goes through our methodology, and which is all ISO verified, and then we can sort of provide an estimation or a value on the carbon emissions avoided, because that'll also change regarding the transport. So if it's actually moving a kilometre apart, you know, it's going to be a lot less for the transportation. But basically, once the transaction's completed, we can actually get the distance between the buyer and seller, so we can make a more accurate report on those savings.
That was my other question about how you measure the carbon, and my question around carbon is also, is this kind of measured in the way that, let's say, the ISCA rating would require kind of to measure and report? You know, like when many projects have to satisfy certain KPIs and ISCA ratings. Is your estimate ready to be used as such, or you know, can values be extracted from your platform to kind of feed into that reporting on ISCA rating?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's innovation credits, waste reduction credits. There's, I can't remember, there's 4 sets of 2. I can't remember what they exactly are, but if you have a look at the ISCA rating page, you'll see what we're actually rated for. But yeah, like 90% of our organisations or businesses that use it generate the reports, or they subscribe to the reports, and they use it for their decarbonisation targets, and it's a plug and play. Especially we do a lot with governments, and they use it to sponsor the platform moving forward. A lot of local governments, as you're aware, you know, they've hit a climate crisis button, and a lot of them use the data that comes out of Aspire to sort of help them with their decarbonisation targets.
Great, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Ariana. Kerry, very patient with your hand up. Over to you.
Thanks, Dewey. And Cameron, thank you so much. What a great product. What a great initiative. I find it very inspirational. I just wanted to ask a question. How does your platform take care of the logistics? So like, how do the resources get from point A to point B?
Yeah, another really good question. So normally the demand, like 90% of the time, the person who buys the item will pick it up, right, on the demand, because we survey our customers probably about once every year, and we also always ask them about the transportation if they're interested in it. And out of the responses, we only get about 10% that say yes, because at the end of the day, like normally they're 2 businesses that are new and they're working together trying to build that trust, and throwing a third party into it can sometimes upset the apple cart. And also I think it's about 80% of our business on the platform have got some type of transportation attached to them anyway. They might have a truck or, you know, a logistics company that they already partner with who can pick this stuff up and take it away. So, yeah, so we don't not necessarily get in the way of the transportation aspect of it, but yeah, we're looking at different options. We're going into different markets where a lot of the goods are going to be a lot smaller in quantity, so you can get smaller trucks to sort of take them around a bit. But again, it all sort of varies on the characteristics of the transaction.
What's sort of like the largest scale project you've done in terms of like quantity of material?
Good question. So we're sourcing 1.5 million tonnes of clean fill for an organisation at the moment, and they've got about 10 years to fill that. So we're slowly chipping away in it, and we've probably had about 300,000 tonnes committed to that. So yeah, but it's about logistics partner. Things change, as you know. 10 years is a long time for a project. A lot of things can change. So yeah, and we've got there's an organisation down here on a project where I think they've been doing about 10,000 tonnes a week for the last 2 years. And they found it and procured it all through the platform, and we measure it and do the carbon avoidance reporting through it.
Okay, thank you for that. That's really interesting. And I have a question. Does the platform, the database, sort of keep any information about quality or specifications? What I mean is, say you're looking for a particular product, recyclable plastic or whatever, is there a minimum standard of what that has to meet? Like, say I want to buy plastic, what percentage of it's going to be plastic versus mixed with other stuff in there in the rubbish? Or yeah, like how does that sort of get captured and communicated across?
Yeah, so when you upload a resource into the platform, there's an actual there where you can upload documentation, so an MSDS or any quality reports, and the person who's buying that item or looking at it, they can review it and have a look at it. So that's how we sort of do that. We don't get in the middle of the Q&A sort of process of it. It's a lot of the day it's buyer beware, right? You're not going to go get 50 tons of a product delivered to your yard without quality testing it first, especially soil or anything contaminated. So that's not really our job and what we try to do. What we try to do is facilitate exchange and open up the markets for these products. If you've got a specification on what you're looking at or looking for, you can post that, no problem, and see what sort of connection comes off the back of it. But at the end of the day, we want to bring these parties together and facilitate exchanges through it.
Yeah, awesome. That's excellent, mate. Thanks for that.
No problem. Thank you,
Thank
Kerry.
you. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, Cameron. So for those who hadn't heard of the Aspire platform before, you heard it here first, the eBay for the circular economy right here in our showcase. So I encourage you in the audience, if you are a contractor, councillor, or it sounds like any business that's looking to contribute to the circular economy, then certainly reaching out to Cameron at Aspire is well worth your while. Cameron, thank you.
Thank you, guys, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. So up next, we're now moving to, oh, sorry, Cameron, is this your slide? No.
Yeah, it's just some
Apologies.
extra at the end that you can share, or you just flick through it to the end.
Oh, apologies. I thought we had landed on the.
It's a bit more information for everyone, but yeah, if you can speed read, but all good.
No problem. Well, look, I'll share this with the audience after the event. So quite a bit of information on the Aspire platform there. Now, I think moving across to Anthony from Unipart to tell us about your composite railway sleeper. Anthony.
Yeah, good morning, Doy, and good morning, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to present through ecologiQ. Much appreciated. Next slide, please. So today we're going to have a chat about the idea of using composite sleepers and bearers into the rail industry. And what do we look for in a composite sleeper or bearer that goes into that particular market? So we're looking for something that's going to give us proven performance. We're not going to be wanting to maintain it for a very long period of time. We're looking for a consistent quality product that's going to survive the challenges of nature. We're looking at a product that's also going to be very safe in its application and also during its installation, and then also its afterlife. What do we do after it's served its useful purpose? And part of we fit into this, back one, please. Part of what we're looking for, of course, is a sustainable solution. We don't want to be generating excessive waste, and we want to close that gap or close the loop on that circular economy. And what we look at is the whole life cycle cost of composites in the rail industry. Next slide, please. So the product that we offer has some fairly unique properties in that it has the same density as hardwood timber. So it feels and handles, cuts, drills, and it's installed exactly like you would with timber. It doesn't rot, it doesn't split, warp, or degrade over time. It doesn't absorb any moisture. It's not attacked by any insects, and it doesn't contain any steel reinforcing, which can pose issues when it comes to electrical insulation across rails when it's used in the rail industry. And it's ideally suited for Australian conditions and extremes of heat and humidity and solar radiation in fairly northern parts of this country. Next slide, please. So the Sicut composite sleeper is made from 99.9% recycled feed. So we don't use any virgin material in the production of our sleepers and bearers. And it's the highest percentage that, to our knowledge, in the industry by far. So essentially what we use, our main feed is HDPE, as I mentioned, and it's those bottles that you see in that image there. And we certainly don't use any agricultural waste. We don't use industrial waste. We don't use thin film plastics or polystyrene, no landfill material, and we don't use any fibre-based material inside the composite product that we produce. Next slide, please. So it's widely used across the world in over 20 countries. predominantly North America, Europe, Middle East, and also now slowly into Australia. They're manufactured in 2 sites, UK and the US, and we are looking for 2 manufacturing sites here in Australia as well. But I'll make the fact that we do produce this on a full-scale commercial basis. So these are not prototypes, these are not R&D exercises. To date, we've produced in excess of 300,000 railway sleepers. That's a lot of material and a lot of track and a lot of kilometres. Next slide, please. So they're designed for extreme conditions and reliability and approved to the European, ISO, Australian and US standards. The standard numbers there that are listed, but the most predominant one we see in Australia is the AS 1085-22 and complies to all those standards that I've noted on the slide there. Next slide, please. We are the main or the supplier of choice into the European market, predominantly through Network Rail, Deutsche Bahn, and also the Swedish rail networks. They don't use any other material. They don't use concrete. They don't use timber. They use exclusively our material. Next slide, please. We've also been granted an interoperability certificate across the European networks, which allows us to provide the material across the entire European rail community. And it's been certified for use across the heavy haul network through Europe with a 30-tonne axle load rating for those applications. Next slide, please. Having a look a little bit closer to home. So they've been installed in Australia. Probably one of our most recent one is BlueScope Steel down in Port Kembla. It's a very quick, simple installation. They use conventional tooling as they would doing a turnout refurb using conventional tools in terms of drilling, cutting and material handling of those bearers on this turnout. Next slide, please. We have a fairly high continual traffic load here. This is a shunting yard where they marshal up the coils of steel that have been produced, a constant 25-tonne axle load across these turnouts, replacing timber that lasts on average sort of 3 to 5 years. We're looking at a life of in excess of 50 years, 50 years. Next slide, please. Also installed at Tasrail at a place called Western Junction outside of Launceston for the last 3 years on 3 turnouts. No degradation or breakdown whatsoever in that application. Next slide, please. Also installed at Pacific National up in Lithgow, up in the Blue Mountains on a shunting marshalling yard. Again, we've seen no degradation or breakdown in that material whatsoever. Next slide, please. We're about to go into a trial program with the PTA in Perth. We'll be installing a series of composite sleepers in comparison to timber predominantly at Claysbrook Station, which is a suburban rail station in Perth in the metro area. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then also, again, another trial program associated with a type approval process through Queensland Rail at a location yet to be determined. Next slide, please. So to the type approval process, we're in the various, I would say, parallel stages with this across the country. So we're going off a series of approvals through Tasrail, which is using the Network Rail type approval. We're in the process of an RPEQ sign-off for QR. The PTA in Perth is also looking at using the grandfather principles for Network Rail, Deutsche Bahn and Swedish Rail for their approvals. Been specified for use by Pacific National, and then also working through the NTRO for a national type approval process with ARTC as their principal sponsor moving forward in the latter part of this year and early next year. Next slide, please. Material handling, as I mentioned earlier, is exactly the same mechanical equipment and also manual equipment. So you can use the same sleeper bearer handling, both mechanized and manual. No additional tooling, no additional handling equipment required at all. Next slide, please. It drills and plates exactly the same way as you will with timber. You use the same drilling, the same cutting methodology. No issues or dramas there with what how you would actually handle this material. Next slide, please. Rail welding and grinding, again, nothing really to be cautious about. The thing doesn't self-combust or catch fire. You have the same precautions as you would be working with concrete or timber when working with our composite. Next slide, please. Our material is 100% recyclable at the end of its 50-year life. So it doesn't contain any plant-based fibres and it doesn't contain any steel reinforcing whatsoever. So there's no liability at the end of life to have to go through a fairly complex disposal process and costly one to either remove those inserted materials and then have to have it disposed of. The ultimate plan for us is to pick it up and put it in the front end of the process and recycle it again back into another another composite bearer or sleeper. Next slide, please. Next one. It is also resistant to derailment damage or wheel drop. So quite often when you do get a derailment, you'll end up having to replace all the sleepers or bearers that have been damaged with the wheels striking it. You will indent the composite, but you will not crack it or break it as you would with concrete or timber. Next slide, please. It is also resistant to tamper strike. So the tamping process is what locks and positions the ballast tightly underneath the sleeper or bearer. Occasionally you will get a tamper strike on one of those sleepers or bearers and you will damage it and you will need to replace it. Again, you will dent it slightly, but you will certainly not need to have to replace it. Next slide, please. We have significant local inventory, depending on your gauge of your network, available in Australia. We have hundreds of these and we are importing them continuously out of Europe at present. Next slide, please. So when looking at our composite sleepers and bearers, we've got a significantly much longer life than hardwood and concrete at 50 years. We're able to look at the whole of the life cycle costs. So if you look at the whole 50-year life cycle cost, it's considerably lower than concrete and certainly less than timber. We have a lot of embedded removal of carbon associated with using composites versus concrete or timber, concrete being the 4th largest emitter of CO2 today. We're looking for ways to try and reduce that moving forward, of course, into the future. We use about 5 million plastic water bottles per kilometre of track that we convert to composite sleepers and bearers. We certainly see plastic waste as a resource and not as a pollution or waste issue. Next slide, please. So I've put up here some of the logos of companies that we supply to, both in terms of mainline, underground metros, and then also rail contractors who build and produce rail networks, and then also turnouts and upgrades. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I think naturally, Kerry, you've first cab off the rank, being our rail representative today on the panel.
Thanks, Dewey. Anthony, great presentation and a great product indeed. Look, I didn't have too many questions. I just wanted to know is have you talked to MTM or V-Line about this product and in Victorian context? Have those conversations progressed at all?
I would like to, and I'd like to start that conversation, Kerry. I did initiate some of those conversations about a month ago, and they said I need to find an internal sponsor to help us drive through the type approval process. So I would be keen to have that conversation with them if that's possible, please. Okay, good to know. And my other question was, you mentioned that the life cycle cost is significantly cheaper than concrete sleepers. Yep. I just want to be more, what makes it significantly cheaper? If we look at the material cost alone for a composite versus that of composite versus timber, and then we look at the life of that and the recycling cost of concrete versus the composite, the overall cost of composite is a lot lower than what you would see with concrete. And I'm happy to share those numbers with you if you would like to see how we come to that conclusion. Yeah, I would actually. Thanks, Anthony. They're my questions, and thanks for answering those. Yeah, great product. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Irina.
Thanks for the presentation. Obviously, the product is well tested and used in other states. I just wanted to know, do you see any particular barriers to keep using the product, especially in Victoria, I guess?
No, I don't see any barriers. It's more, I suppose, the hesitation to try something new. But we're certainly keen to see it installed. And as you rightly said, there's other states who are blazing on with installations, and we certainly like to see Victoria take this on as well.
And given this is kind of the future, I guess, on what sort of materials we're going to use in the world, not just Australia, what sort of reuse after you recycle once or twice? How many times do you think this can be recycled, I guess, in the future?
Well, as far as we see, it's infinite in that sense, because we're not really changing the structure or chemically altering what we're using, essentially, which is HDPE. So we're taking it and reusing it again and again, and the only thing that we may add to it is the carbon black, which is the UV stabilizer in essence. But essentially, it's the same material. We would remove from it the metal hardware, the clips and the plates. They themselves can be recycled back into steel. But the composite material, is no reason why we couldn't continue to recycle that indefinitely.
One last question. Have you thought of any other products with a similar kind of technology and all that? I'm talking about, let's say, load-bearing beams, structural members, and other things that are used more in the building industry rather than just for the rail sleepers.
To be honest, no. The only other place we apply them is bridge transoms to replace timber on rail bridges, but our sole focus is at the moment purely in the rail sector. Yeah.
Okay. But there's a hope that can be used, I guess, as well. The same. Yeah. Exactly.
There's no reason why you couldn't apply them into other structural load-bearing applications. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arena. Eugene.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks for your presentation. I'm always a fan of the plastic to use in the infrastructure. Just a question more on the technical. You touched on the design life to the 50 years. In terms of the strength and modulus, how the thing look like compared to the timber and the concrete?
So in terms of its performance to timber, it's better than timber. So you will see, and again, we publish these numbers quite openly in terms of its modulus of elasticity, its resilience to bending, the number of cycles we put it through. All that is covered in the codes and the standard compliance. We find it is more forgiving and has a longer life than concrete, because you do get some flexibility in the composite versus that of concrete. Concrete is extremely hard and brittle, and it's very unforgiving to any kind of mechanical damage. So in that sense, we find it performs better in some applications than concrete, predominantly in lateral stability, where we have a lot of forces on a bend or a curve where the train wants to pull the track straight because of its load and its speed. The composite performs and locks into the ballast a lot better than you would see with a concrete sleeper or bearer arrangement. So there's some significant advantages in terms of its resilience and strength and long life in that application than you would concrete or timber.
Yeah, in terms of design for the plastic, it's more like energy adoption, like concrete and timber are resistant to energy. How the thing look like in terms of the design? Because it's like one is an absorption, one is a resistant. Then how to meet that requirement?
So we publish again quite openly our environmental product declaration, where we capture all that data of how energy intensive it is to produce this item, and in comparison to, say, concrete or timber. So we have, again, happy to share that information with you.
And the last question is like, why you don't consider the PP, polypropylene, rather than high density polyethylene?
So the polypropylene doesn't give us the structural strength that we do find with HDPE predominantly. We've also looked at other materials, but by far we get the best overall performance covering the requirements of the codes and standards by using HDPE, and it's also the availability of that feedstock versus polypropylene.
Thanks, Anthony. Pass back to you, Dewey.
Thank you, Eugene. And thank you, Anthony. No, it's great to hear that. I suppose if the water bottles can't remain being water bottles, that there's another life for them as well. So
it's very true.
Just a call out to the audience, because I know that there'll be a number of rail projects dialed in. So in order to undertake a type approval with MTM, you do need to have a project sponsor. I think with V-Line, if you haven't made contact there, you can apply direct with V-Line and Anthony offline. It's something that we'd be keen to pursue, and I think Kerry and some of our other advocates in the rail space would be keen to.
That'd be great. That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you. So that's great. Now off to something a little bit different. Xavier, over to you. Tell us about Twintec and how we can reinforce concrete with steel from end-of-life tires.
Right. Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me and for your time. So Twincon is a company part of the Twintec group. So we can go to the next slide. So sustainability is really at the core of everything we do in the Twintec group, and Twincon is no different. So next slide. So what is Twincon fibers? Well, Twincon is a steel fiber which is sourced from end-of-life truck tires, which is then further processed and cleaned. And we also have a patented quality control system under the CE marking system. And the end result is an engineered material which has tested and proven performance. The Twincon recycled steel fibers have 97% less embodied carbon than a virgin steel fiber, which we also sell, by the way. Next. So these pictures show you a little bit of what the process is. We start with truck tires. You end up with a big mountain of rubber, which gets turned into rubber crumbs. And you also end up with a mountain of steel cord. This steel cord is very high tensile steel, so it's very good quality steel. And so we take that and we then reprocess it using a fairly small amount of energy. And we turn this into a high performance engineered material, which really helps with the crack control and the overall performance of fiber reinforced concrete. Next. We can, this is the actual numbers that we're talking about. So we've done an internal LCA at this stage showing that our process only amounts to 39 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per ton of material. So when you compare that to virgin steel from the ICE database, for example, you can see that steel has 1,270 kilograms per ton. So that's where we get the 97% reduction in carbon, embodied carbon for the Twincon fiber. Next. So this is the technical slide for the presentation. You can see on this graph, so this is a bending stress versus midpoint deflection. So it's very similar to an EN 14651 residual flexural tensile strength test that we do with any fiber reinforced concrete. And you can see that the top line, the green line, is the Twincon fibers, and it shows clearly that the limit of proportionality, or the force required to actually crack the concrete in the first instance, is much higher than if we use just a normal virgin steel fiber. But also, as we go further along in deflection and crack opening, the performance is also much higher using the Twincon fibers. So it's good to know that these fibers are not only much lower in embodied carbon, they're also much higher performance than a virgin steel fiber. In terms of cost, basically the market price, the sell price of these Twincon fibers as an engineered material is exactly the same as for a virgin steel fiber. So there's no problem in terms of cost. In terms of barriers to entry, there's a few that we're finding at the moment. The main one is that they're not covered by existing specifications or standards, and that's because it's not an existing product that's been around for long enough. So if you look at all the steel fiber specifications to be used at the moment, they're all based on existing steel fibers, hook and steel fibers, which we have as well. So our virgin steel fibers that we sell obviously are approved to all these specifications, but these fibers, because they're a different shape and size and diameter, are not included in the existing specifications. So we would have to either get them included in the existing specifications or maybe write a new specification, especially for this type of recycled steel fiber. Being a new product, is also obviously reluctant from clients to use this product because they've never used it before, which is a perceived risk. But having said that, it has been used in Europe quite extensively, and we'll cover that in the next slide. Next, please. In terms of constructability, so how do we use these fibers? Because they're very thin and a bit shorter than a normal virgin steel fiber, we have come up with a special integration machine, which is a rotating drum which breaks up the fibers as they come out of the box, and then uses an air blower to blow the fibers into the concrete mixer truck directly or into the concrete plant. And that ensures that the fibers are really well distributed within the concrete, and that there's no balling issues, and the concrete mix is homogeneous. These machines that we have developed can be purchased from Twintec. So there's no real issue there. The concrete plant or the contractor would buy one or hire one from us. But obviously the advantages in terms of constructability is that the construction time is much quicker using fiber concrete compared to using traditional reinforcement or mesh. The performance, as we've just talked about, in terms of crack control especially, is much higher, and obviously the embodied carbon is reduced. Next, please. So in terms of applications, well, Twintec Group is in Europe is a industrial flooring contractor. So the main uses for this fiber to date have been obviously in industrial flooring. So we've completed quite a few projects in Europe, including this one shown here, using a blend of the Twincon recycled fibers and virgin steel fibers as well, to get the crack control performance at the LOP FR1, but also to get the higher performance at the ultimate design limit state. Next. Another application which would be particularly relevant today, to whoever might be watching this presentation, is we've also done some trials and testing for roller compacted concrete pavements with the Twincon fibers included in the mix to enhance the performance of the roller compacted concrete, especially in terms of bending and ductility. And the trials we've done in Europe have been very successful, and so we would like to trial this type of technology here in Australia. Next. You can also use the recycled Twincon fibers in shotcrete. They reduce the rebound by up to 20%, obviously lower your embodied carbon of the shotcrete mix, and as we've talked about, enhanced performance. So it's a good all around. Next. Precast is also a very good application for these fibers. They really enhance the performance of the precast. You use them the same as you would virgin fibers, but obviously with a reduction in embodied carbon. We've done many trials in Europe with various precasters, and we're doing trials here in Australia next week, actually, with a large precaster here. So I would invite other precasters, if you're interested in lowering the embodied carbon of your products, to have a try. Next. Blast proofing, probably a very niche market, but that's where fiber concrete really was born in the USA, especially in the 50s and 60s with military type uses. So if anyone's working on a concrete that requires blast proofing, these fibers really help, as you can see from the test panels here. Next. So in summary, these recycled steel fibers are very high strength, very high quality steel. So it would be a shame to just send them off to India to get remelted into a new metal product, which is currently what's happening. So by using them at the source and cleaning them up and going through our process and quality control, you're actually avoiding a lot of carbon being used in transporting this scrap overseas to be remelted and then transported again to the end user somewhere around the world. very high performance, especially when you blend them with virgin steel fibers in some applications, but also used on their own. They've been tested in accordance with the latest design guidance, especially EN 14889 and 14651, which are the existing standards for virgin steel fibers anyway. And obviously significant environmental benefits because of the lower carbon. And also, as has been previously stated in other solutions today, this is not a research project. This is a tried and tested product which is commercially available. We produce between 200 and 2,000 tons per month, depending on the demand. And we've used it on quite a few projects already. So yeah, again, I'm not asking for someone to help us with research. We've spent 5 million euros and 20 years researching and testing this product in concrete. So it's a ready to go solution. Thank you. Next. That's okay. You can move next one. So I guess the reason for me being here today is to look for major projects or contractors or precasters or people using shotcrete, anybody out there who might be interested in trialing this product in their concrete as a fiber reinforcement to lower the carbon, enhance the properties of their concrete, mainly, I think what would be interesting today would be the roller compacted concrete pavement solution, especially for major projects. We could use that on shoulders or approach slabs or intersections. I'm already talking to organizations like NTRO and RMIT and people like that who are very interested in joining us on a potential demonstration on a major project. Yes, I'm looking for interest today for people to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. I think you've got interest from the panel already. So Yu Chin, you do a bit of work on standards reform. Any questions? I'll open with you.
Yeah, I do have. Hi, Xavier. Good to see you again.
Hi, Yu Chin.
Just wonder for this one, a few clarification. You mentioned that this fiber is high performance than the virgin steel fiber. What do you mean that?
So it's high performance, as the graph that I showed in the presentation, it's high performance at LOP and FR1 especially. So the concrete cracks later, and when it does crack, the first crack is kept closed for much longer. So for serviceability limit state design, it's high performance than if you use just a normal hook end steel fiber that we have on the market at the moment. That's what I meant by high performance.
Yeah. So what is the challenges for you? Because the specification, the existing specification is more on the performance requirement. As far as your fiber meet that performance requirement, you can use it. So what is the barrier or challenges hold you to use this fiber to the infrastructure or the structure application?
So the existing specifications, some of them specify the shape of the fiber, the aspect ratio of the fiber, and we don't fall into either of those to start with. So that's in terms of specifications. That's probably the first two barriers. Our aspect ratio is 100. Some of the specs talk about an aspect ratio of 60, I think, as a maximum. And also the shape. It's not a hook end fiber. It's not a fibril. It's not a crimped fiber. It's a random shape fiber. So we don't meet the specs based on that. But you're right, based on performance, we do. So as I mentioned, we have done EN 14651 beam tests, and we have very, very good FR numbers. We've just got some last week actually done with Australian Concrete in Queensland. And as we expected, very high LOP FR1 and FR3, FR4, similar to what the hook end fiber would give you.
Yeah, just for your information, maybe this one you're aware of, because AS 5100 Part 5, Section 6, production of the steel fiber, they refer to the EN code, that is the EN 14889 from my memory. So that is as far as you meet that production steel fiber reinforcement, you can use it. I guess it's like maybe your missing part is the testing result, because it's like if your fiber got a different shape and different size or different thickness, then it's come to the testing result. As far as you can provide that testing result, same as the code requirement, I can see why your fiber can use it.
Okay, perfect. It's just that when I read those specifications and I saw our shape and our aspect ratio was not included, I thought we might, but if you say that that's okay, then yeah, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's more at the end, it's a performance requirement. You need to demonstrate that your strength, your durability, fire resistance, and etc. Meet that requirement.
Yeah, I agree. Well, good. Thank you.
Thanks. Pass to you, Louis. Thanks.
Thank you. Irina.
Thanks. I think we've clarified a very important matter there, is it, Xavier? I was going to ask the same question in terms of the barriers to kind of get there, but I assume that all the testing and everything else, because it's approved in Europe and it's used in Europe, that there was some testing done, I guess, that was satisfactory to European codes and everything else.
Absolutely. In fact, I gave you a very short presentation, but as I mentioned in the presentation, we've spent €5 million and 20 years of testing at Sheffield University. So we've tested all sorts of possible scenarios in different markets, precast, roller compacted concrete, shotcrete, industrial flooring. We've tested all the possible properties you could think of. We've spent a lot of time and money. So yes, we have done a lot of testing, and yeah, I agree with both of you. I don't think there's that many barriers in terms of specifications. It's probably more now the barriers of major projects and major contractors giving it a try, and that's why I'm here today, to hopefully find a major project, maybe Northeast Link or something like that, where we could do a small road section as a demo with roller compacted concrete and an asphalt topping. NTRO are happy to design this pavement, and RMIT would be happy to also be involved in such a demo. The Smartcrete CRC would also maybe be interested in funding some of this demo trial. So I think if we did something like that as a start, it probably would be a great idea.
I think it's a good start to even say that, yeah, the standards are not a barrier here to use. So if that's a good start, and then the rest is really just to find, I guess, a project or application to start. And my other question was about the roll-on concrete, because that's like a product on its own, I guess. But do you have any obstacles to kind of offer that or apply that on many projects in terms of barriers or from standards or any other barriers that you see?
What type of concrete?
The one that you're rolling, I guess, with the fibers, the one that the pavement that you're.
Right. So roller compacted concrete with Twincon fibers inside of them. That's a solution that we came up with in Europe based on the European Commission asking us to develop a new solution to replace asphalt. So there's existing specifications for roller compacted concrete, but that's plain concrete mix. It doesn't have fibers in it. There are specifications for fiber reinforced concrete with Transport for New South Wales, for example, for roundabouts and things like that. But roller compacted concrete specifically normally doesn't have fibers in it. And that's the whole problem with it, that it cracks quite easily and it's not as ductile because it's just plain concrete. So it's used almost as a blinding type of layer for asphalt on top. But we want to basically change the way that we look at pavement design and use a fiber reinforced roller compacted concrete with a thin asphalt topping as a new approach to building pavements. So we can't really compare ourselves to either existing reinforced concrete roads or asphalt roads. We're kind of a hybrid in between new solution.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably something to be explored separately anyway. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And naturally, Kerry, any opportunities or perspectives in the rail sector?
Yeah, thanks, Dewey and Xavier. Great presentation. Yeah, look, I know in Metro Tunnel we use a lot of steel fibers in the tunnel, the shotcrete lining. So there's obviously those sort of applications too. Xavier, have you used this in any sort of tunnel application before?
No, we haven't, but we've used it in shotcrete. So for temporary works and things like that, we've done a lot of testing. We know it's going to work really well with shotcrete. And in terms of precast segments, there's no reason why it wouldn't work well as a blend. So maybe 1/3 twin, 2/3 normal hook end fibers, but to enhance that crack control and FR1 and lower the carbon obviously of the segment. So look, we don't have all the answers, but there's definitely some project critical testing that would need to be done for particular projects. But we know that the properties are there, and we know the performance is there.
That's fantastic, mate. So keep up the good work, and we're looking forward to watching this space.
Thank you. And there's a couple of questions on the chat. So one's about looking
No,
at...
Xavier, I'll have you, if you can, hop into the chat and answer those questions, type your answers in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll give Rich an opportunity. But really encouraging to hear that obviously in this instance, the standards and specs may not be the barrier after all. And we'll probably start with the existing testing results that you might already have in Europe, and we can take it from there. And hopefully you've inspired one of the projects who are dialed in today to reach out to you. But yeah, please hop into the Q&A and answer those questions.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Xavier.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Now, Richard, I welcome you to the virtual stage. And it's just, if I can give you a bit of context, really happy to have OCC Connections back up here on our showcase. So the Eco Bollard was first pitched to us over 18 months ago at the time, just as a concept. No prototypes were even printed. So I'm really encouraged to see that here we are 18 months later, and to get an update on the Eco Bollard and OCC Enterprises. Richard Rolfe, I hand it over to you. You're on mute, sorry.
There we go. Thank you very much, Doy, and thanks very much for the everyone for the opportunity to present to you. So we're OC Connections. My name's Richard Rolfe. I'm the manager of Eco Products. OC Connections is an Australian disability enterprise. Doy, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just get you to move. There we go. We're an Australian disability enterprise. We're based in Melbourne South East. We provide employment to over 100 supported employees who have a range of intellectual disabilities. The employment that we provide covers a range of services, including packing and assembly, light manufacturing, document management and administration. We have an eco-friendly mobile fleet cleaning team, and we have the first of our range of eco-friendly products, which is the T-top bollard. Doy, if you'd be kind enough to move to the next slide, and our GM, Steve Batinsky, was good enough to record a video a while ago, and they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we'll let Steve explain a little bit about our product.
The idea is quite a simple one. We're working with Major Road Projects Victoria to take these damaged and end-of-life devices, recycle them to make new bollards. Great thing about this project is it creates ongoing and meaningful work for our supported employees, and it does that in two ways. The first is around the resource recovery. So our team go out on site, recover the old bollards, we bring them back to the factory where we go through a process of sorting those bollards, and from there we transport them through to our local supply chain partners who will then recycle those bollards. What we do is finish the product. So that includes adhering the retro-reflective strip. Each batch run, we're able to create almost 932 hours worth of work.
We will be sorting out all the different bollards, all the good ones and the bad ones.
It'll be exciting to learn the different parts of the job, and obviously with the measuring, maybe learning how to place the reflectors onto the bollards, and yeah, it should be good.
The goals, the dreams, the aspirations of people, and that includes people with disability, are the same. To be able to provide an environment that creates meaningful work, sustainable work, that challenges them, that builds new skills, is absolutely fantastic. But probably just as important is the social aspect of that and the interactions that occur.
Been working here for 19 years. Everything's just worked out so well. And of course, I met my wife Belinda at Oakville Centre, and we fell in love, got married.
All the employees are like family.
Nice to be socialising with our friends and earning $1, which is what it's all about.
We're looking forward to doing new jobs at OC Connection with the bollards.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Doy. It doesn't matter how many times I watch that video, I find myself smiling. It's terrific to be part of that team. So our bollards, our bollard was developed in consultation with regulators, industry experts, and local manufacturers to ensure compliance with Australian standards, to ensure performance and longevity standards were exceeded, and to meet the market expectations. Part of the challenge for us is we're up against imported bollards, which come in at a price point, and there's hundreds of thousands of these bollards that are imported every year into Australia. The Australian conditions are somewhat different to the conditions in the countries of manufacture. Our UV levels in Australia are amongst the highest in the world. Imported bollards often have insufficient UV stabiliser, and therefore they don't cope with the Australian conditions as well as you might expect, and hence they have a shorter lifespan and more plastic ends up going to landfill. Just the next slide, if you'd be so kind. Thanks, Doi. So our bollards are 100% compliant with Australian standards. They're ideal for traffic companies and major projects. The next slide, if you wouldn't mind, Doi. So the Eco2 top bollard addresses a lot of needs. It supports the circular economy, waste and recycling, social procurement framework, local jobs first, the major project skills guarantee, local manufacturing, and recycle first. So it's an absolute no-brainer for anybody who's purchasing bollards. It's a very competitive price point that we have entered the market with. So it's an ideal product to convert organisations' procurement spend to a social spend. Doi, next slide, if you wouldn't mind. So the reason we exist is to support people with disabilities. That's what we're all about. So our supported staff, as you saw earlier, have been working with OCC Connections for many years, for decades in some instances. So that's what we mean when we say we provide ongoing work and meaningful work for those supported staff, helping them to develop skills. We also work with other disability enterprises throughout our supply chain. We have Australian Disability Enterprise partners in Keysborough and in the Latrobe Valley. So the value extends well beyond just OCC Connections. The next slide, if you wouldn't mind. Doi, so the specs, these are a standard product. They are very similar to every other bollard out in the market. But as I say, they do outperform, particularly in terms of their lifespan, our resource recovery process. We launched this product back in 2022, November of 2022. We've put in excess of 22,000 bollards into the market. And to date, we have probably less than 100 of those have come back after 12 months in the market. Less than 100 have come back through our resource recovery program. So they are performing particularly well, and certainly a lot better than a lot of the other bollards, end-of-life bollards that we've received. So that's our story, and thanks again for your attention and your time. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Richard, and great to hear an example of the circular economy having not just the environmental and the economic, but really those social impacts as well. I'm not too sure who to kick off with. Kerry, I think you put your hand up first. Sorry.
Thanks, Louis. Yeah, it was a bit of a race. No, Richard, wonderful. That's great to see. I mean, we've seen this sort of thing before, I guess, with the recycled plastic in this application. I guess what's sort of stopping us from adopting this sort of solution?
Primarily awareness, I think, Kerry. We have been working very hard to make organisations, the procurement departments amongst those organisations are aware of the product. Certainly, there's no barriers in terms of regulation. There's no barriers in terms of the commercial viability of the product. As I say, we're very competitively priced. It's really just awareness, and through the administrative processes of the various organisations, making sure that the people who are aware of the product, and they're typically in the sustainability parts of the organisation, but make sure that they're communicating with the procurement teams to lock us into that supply chain.
That's good feedback, Richard. Thanks for sharing that, and thank you again for the presentation. I'll hand over to any the other panelists if they have any questions.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Irina.
Thanks for the presentation. I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem there are any obstacles to apply, and obviously you're already kind of selling the products and they apply, but not enough, I guess. I was going to say, did you maybe try to, how can I say, go into a partnership of some sort where you can offer your products to some other suppliers which kind of are more used to providing number of products, not just bollards, I guess, and then it's easier for the kind of contractors to kind of come in and purchase it in one go?
Yeah, thanks, Irina. That is something that we're in discussion about at the moment. It's important to understand for us that we don't make a lot of money out of these bollards. I'll put it right there. We're not getting rich doing this, but that's not the point of the exercise. That's not why we exist. And hence our margins are quite small. So if we were to move into a partnership arrangement with wholesalers who might be able to include our product amongst a range of their products, that would probably mean that we would need to erode our margin even further, and we potentially would end up cannibalising our own market. So we may ship more product, but at lower price points, and therefore it wouldn't take too much effort to find that we're actually running not just revenue neutral, but we would be negative. So it's a challenge for us, Irina. So we need to work out how we're going to make that work. But like I say, that's the subject of a lot of discussions at the moment.
Yeah, hopefully you'll find another way, I guess. I'm sure there are different avenues, I guess.
Yes, I'm hoping that being here today, there'll be people watching this and wondering why they're not buying our bollards. There is no reason to not buy our bollard. There's no commercial reason. There's no technical reason. And as I say, the benefits are clear to see. So I'm hoping somebody sitting there at the moment is thinking, gee, why aren't we buying those bollards?
Yeah, hope we can hear from the attendees, I guess.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, Irina.
Thank you. Yu Chin.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for your presentation. I find it's very impressed that you not only use a recycled material for manufacturing the bollard, also provide that support the disability and the job opportunity. That is fantastic. Just the last slide you have, that one is more on the technical clarification. You say your bollard using is a recycled low density polyethylene and high density polyethylene. Would you mind to explain more what does it mean when you recycle, why you need to classify with low density and high density?
Thanks for the question. Eugene, we went through an extensive testing and development process to ensure that the product met the industry requirements in terms of its structural integrity. The bollard needed to be able to withstand fairly harsh conditions, but certainly amongst those are requirements to manage impact. The bollards get impacted by vehicles, and we spent a lot of time making sure that the way the bollards performed in those situations would meet those industry expectations. So we settled on a ratio of HD and LDPE to meet those requirements.
Yep, thanks. And the last question, I can see the challenges from your side. From like MLPV side or ecology side, what do you think we can help you or support you much better to get your product on the market?
Look, the thing that I'd be most grateful for you, Jim, would be a list of contacts within your organisations so that I can promote the product directly to the people who are making those procurement decisions. As I say, there is no reason for people who are purchasing bollards to buy bollards from anywhere else. My aim is to have 100% market penetration. So the contacts are gold to me.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And pass back to you, Dewey.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I think Richard, in my experience, we've been supporting the Eco Bollard over the last 18 months. And I think procurement practices, how you might be able to unbundle some of those to target specific social procurement opportunities for those of you in the audience, unbundling of your procurement processes, but also whoever you use as your traffic managers as well. So I know that a lot of this work is outsourced to traffic management companies if you're on any large projects. And we've introduced OCC before to the Traffic Management Association and some of the major members there. But like all things, if you're out there, you're purchasing, you are the client. And as the client, you would have the influence and the authority to request certain products. And from even a policy perspective, there's social procurement, it should be business as usual in this instance. So we know that spending that dollar means that we spend it greener and spend it with greater local impact. So look at how you might be able to unbundle your procurement, look at your purchasing opportunities, and also look at your supply chains as well. So yeah, hopefully we've inspired some of you to reach out to Richard after this, and we'll see more eco bollards on our projects. Thank you, Richard.
Terrific. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you, everyone.
Now, that brings us to the end of today's showcase. Our next event will be on December 9. It'll be our last one before we break for Christmas. If you've enjoyed today, please get in touch with us. So you can probably tell these events are very much a call to action for anyone who's watching. So if you don't have access already, you can reach out to us and request access to our Knowledge Hub, where our innovation database, as well as case studies, a directory and a map of all our suppliers can be found. We have reference guides there on existing standards and specifications that let you use recycled materials. We have visual guides so that you can, if you're in the design and architect space, you can actually just have a look at what projects, road, rail, and can use already in terms of materials. And like all things today, the fastest way to get information is also to be on the social media platform. So a recording of this showcase will be up on YouTube probably early next week. But in the meantime, you can get a lot of the latest updates from ecologiQ on our LinkedIn channel. So for any questions, please reach out to us at ecologiq@roadprojects.vic.gov.au. I'd like to thank our panelists and our presenters again for spending today and showcasing the very best. And I wish you all a happy Circular Economy Week for those who are away, or Circular Economy Week this week, and a safe weekend. Thank you for dialing in.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thank you very much, Dewey.
Thanks, Dewey and all.
Thank you.